I'm on a journey to an island in the Andaman Sea, described by many as a paradise. A paradise lost for a few years, but now regained. This is Maya Bay, or rather the new Maya Bay, reopened since the beginning of 2022. For 3.5 years before that, this area was off limits to visitors. And this was why. I traveled there in 2018, a few days before authorities ordered the bay closed. Maya Bay became very popular following the release of the Hollywood movie The Beach in 2000, showing Maya Bay as a very untouched piece of nature. But ironically, the movie crew did some extensive reconstruction to this place, and critics say it still hasn't fully recovered yet. Nevertheless, thousands of visitors come here on a daily basis, so much so that authorities are saying this place needs a break. More than 4,000 visitors a day descended on this small spot off the coast of Krabi province in the south of Thailand. The bay itself, a noisy parking lot for boats, hardly an idyllic island refuge. Already back then, many travelers felt it was too much.
Very populated. There is a hell of a lot of people. It'd be nice.
There's probably too many boats parked around. Our boat's gone over there, so that would be.
It's a small area with a lot of people. I think if they kept small groups coming here, it'd probably have less of an impact on the environment.
That environmental impact on the beach and marine life was disastrous, pushing the island's ecosystem to the brink of collapse. Dr. Thorn Thamrongnawasawat is a marine biologist who was asked by the authorities to recommend solutions to help Maya Bay recover. He explains to me what over-tourism had done.
So there are a lot of boats coming in, speedboat, more than 100 at one time, parking around, come to shore, and they have all the impact, especially from the speedboat come into Maya Bay. The sand that are disturbed around drop on the coral, the anchoring on the coral itself, or when the low tide, people walk around on the coral or swimming and step on the coral. So there is a lot of coral destroyed by the tourism activity, and the percent coverage of coral dropped down to 8%.
Something had to be done. In June 2018, Maya Bay and the island of Got Phipile, where it's located, were closed to the public. The aim was to give Mother Nature time to recover, with a helping hand from park rangers.
If we wait for the juvenile coral from outside to come in our Maya, it will take years, many years. So we replant at least 8 species of coral. We don't only want 8 species, more than around 30,000 fragments, and the coral correct from cracking coral around PP Island and put it in there.
Initially, Maya Bay's closure was to last for 4 months, but it soon became clear that the break wasn't long enough. Part of the reason was that some of those replanted corals were swept away by strong storms. The temporary closure became an indefinite hiatus. Ironically, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting lack of tourists gave the island extra time to recover. And indeed, nature started on the path to healing during that time. Coral reefs have mostly regrown. Creatures like these black-tipped reef sharks, more than 100 of them, have returned for the first time in 3 decades. Scientists say that in the absence of any humans, the shallow bay acts as an ideal nursery for the sharks to raise their young undisturbed. On New Year's Day 2022, Maya Bay finally reopened. I went back to see the changes and the new measures to protect its ecosystem. Boats are now banned from entering the bay, Instead, all vessels have to dock on the other side of the island. A footpath from the pier will lead you to the beach. For New Maya Bay, there are also new rules for visitors to come here. First of all, you have to register in advance. Once you're here, you can only stay for about an hour or so. And also, in order to protect the coral reefs and the rest of the nature, you're not allowed to go too much into the water, because otherwise you'll hear this from the rangers and they will call you back on land. No more than 375 people are allowed at Maya Bay during each 1 hour time slot, and there are only 11 of these per day. That's still more than 4,000 visitors a day, so about the same number as before the closure. But this time, they won't all be crowding on the sand at once. The beachgoers I met think the changes are acceptable.
Absolutely, yeah. I think nature should come first.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just like the coral should be back. Like when you go swimming, it's like suntan lotion and stuff like that. It's terrible.
ก็คือยังไงอะนักท่องเที่ยวก็น้อยแล้วก็ดูไม่แออัดมากเกินไปค่ะ
ถึงแม้ว่านักท่องเที่ยวจะน้อยแต่ก็แล้วก็แบบว่ายังต้องรักษาพวกเรื่องกฎระเบียบเรื่องเพราะยังเป็นช่วงของโรคระบาดนี่ครับ
I think it's okay. When we come to people country, we have to respect people.
Sutep Chai Khao, the national park ranger in charge here and a Krabi province native, shows me around. He's been stationed here since the mid-1990s, and he has seen how Maya Bay has changed over the years. To him, the new measures are long overdue.
ตอนนี้เราได้มีโอกาสทำแล้วนะฮะเราไม่ได้มีโอกาสแล้วเราต้องทำให้ดีที่สุดนะฮะเอาตามนโยบายของรัฐนะฮะที่เขาวางไว้แล้วก็บวกกับความตั้งใจของเราด้วยนะฮะบอกกับนักท่องเที่ยวทุกคนบอกกับใครทุกท่านนะครับแล้วก็อาศัยเจ้าหน้าที่ทุกนายนะครับร่วมดูแลกันในส่วนตัวนี้ผมว่าไม่นานคงจะดีกว่านี้
Tourism remains a vital pillar of Thailand's economy, especially as it looks to kickstart its post-pandemic recovery. Following Maya Bay's reopening, visitors are already returning to neighboring Koh Phi Phi Island, where the closest hotels are. Streets are bustling again, where they were once empty not too long ago. Maya Bay is a good example of how Thailand is trying to balance mass tourism while protecting nature. For marine biologist Dr. Thorn, a compromise is necessary. Otherwise, people may not see the benefits of conservation or may be against it in the long run.
And sometimes you have to take a choice. If I am a marine bioscientist, if I am a conservationist, I don't want anybody to come in on my yacht. If we hurt too much to the local business and to a guy or whatever, they will not love coral anymore. They will think that coral make their life very hard, and they will not tell us when somebody step on coral, anchoring on coral in other place. They will fish if they have a chance. So that is not a way to work for the conservation idea.
As the day winds down and the last tourist group leaves, Maya Bay returns to its tranquil state. With the new measures in place, it has an opportunity to showcase its natural wonders once again. While man brought damage to Maya Bay, nature itself is eroding another of Thailand's most famous coastal landmarks. I find out firsthand when CNA Correspondent returns. In October 2020, park rangers made a worrying discovery. 30 kilometers north of Maya Bay, part of a limestone formation collapsed, sending 30,000 tons of rock crashing onto a coral reef below. The area is a popular dive site. It was immediately cordoned off. Scientists say the collapse was most likely caused by erosion due to storms and pounding waves. The incident prompted authorities to check all similar rock formations across the country for structural integrity. We're taking another boat ride from Krabi to neighboring Phang Nga province to visit one of the rock formations surveyed, a limestone structure that's another one of Thailand's landmarks made famous by movies. This 20-meter-high limestone pillar is called Khao Tapo, or Crab's Eye Rock. But since the 1970s, It's better known as James Bond Island, after starring in one of the franchise's films, The Man with the Golden Gun. The formation served as the hideout of the villain, who Bond eventually defeated. Tourists are slowly coming back here as well, after nearly 2 years of closure forced upon them by the pandemic. During that time off, scientists and officials examined every nook and cranny of the rock for possible signs of erosion. A preliminary report concluded that while the weather and waves do chip away at the rock formations, there's no immediate danger to James Bond Island and its structural integrity. Local park ranger Nopasin Baithani helps monitor this rocky outcrop in the sea. He tells me of one measure to protect it from the elements and humans.
เราก็เลยมีการป้องกันโดยการกั้นทุ่นไม่ให้เรือนำเข้ามาจอดด้านนี้ปกติเรือมันจะจอดอยู่ด้านนี้ได้เมื่อสมัยก่อนนะครับแล้วก็เรากั้นทุ่นไว้เพื่อไม่ให้คลื่นมันเข้าไปกัดเซาะใต้โคนเขาตะปูแต่ก็มันมีผลกระทบแค่นิดเดียวครับสำหรับคลื่นตรงนี้
But on the mainland, it's a different picture. Another boat ride brings me to Goklang, a small village in Krabi province nestled in waterways by the coast. We see communities living in houses built by the water, but also signs of people forced to move. Places like these show the effects of a major environmental problem in Thailand. This is what coastal erosion looks like. The house has been abandoned like this for 8 years now, and I've been told that the coastline, the border where the water used to be, was just right here where our boat is. And this is how much land has been lost to the sea over the years now. And meters by meter, that is happening almost everywhere in Thailand. According to a government survey, erosion is eating away an average of 5 meters per year of Thailand's roughly 3,000 kilometers of coastline, a third of it along the Andaman Sea. Or to put it another way, 30 square kilometers or more than 4,000 football pitches of land are lost each year. I meet with Kanchana Nakapakon to understand more about this phenomenon. She co-leads an international team of researchers to study the effects of coastal erosion in southern Thailand.
If we not do anything, the human not do anything, right? So the natural will be okay. They have some erosion, some monsoon, but another monsoon they will back to the same periods. But when we have the human activity, like a jetty or seawall or whatever, the hard construction over there, right? So that one make the erosion very fast.
The combination of natural and man-made elements has resulted in the coastal erosion seen over the years. These losses have forced residents to move their houses further and further inland. One of them is Kanitsuk Dang. She's lived here for about 40 years now, but her home hasn't always been in the same place.
เราย้ายบ้านเป็นหลังที่5แล้วตอนนี้หลังที่5 1 2 3 4 5ครั้งแรกเราก็ไม่รู้หรอกเพราะตอนนั้นเราคือเรื่องโลกโซเชียลอะไรมันไม่ค่อยมีเราไม่ได้ค่อยสนใจย้ายครั้งที่1ย้ายครั้งที่2ครั้งที่3เอามันไม่ใช่ละเพราะว่าแต่ละครั้งคลื่นมันมา
She told me that her original house was 500 meters away from where we are sitting now. Ganit and her community started looking for solutions to keep the tide at bay. Their first attempt involved walls of bamboo sticks buried in sand. The idea is to absorb the destructive power of the waves crashing in, a method that has worked in other provinces. But that didn't hold here. The sticks were often swept away. Next, they tried planting trees on the shoreline, choosing a species that could survive standing in salt water. They planted mangroves, which tolerate the brackish water and are known for having dense roots that can slow down water flow and hold the soil. That was in 2011, and since then, Kanit and her neighbors don't have to worry about losing their homes to the encroaching waters.
ตอนนี้เราไม่ต้องทำอะไรแล้วเพราะว่าต้นไม้เราอย่างเราปลูกสัก100 ต้นเนี่ยเราไม่ต้องการให้มันติดสัก100 ต้นเป็น100 ต้นแค่5 ต้นหรือว่า2 ต้นก็ได้เพราะว่าต้นไม้มันก็ต้องมีลูกมีหลานมันต่อไปมันก็ได้ระดับหนึ่งเนาะว่านอนหลับหน่อยละว่าถ้าว่าคลื่นลมมาเราไม่ต้องกังวลจอดเรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยได้ไม่ต้องเอาเวลาลมพายุมาเราต้องไปจอดในคลองหรือว่าอะไรอย่างนั้นเราสามารถหลบได้แล้วก็บังลมได้น้ำกัดเซาะก็ลดชะลอได้
However, some studies suggest that climate change could cause more extreme storms and in turn stronger waves eroding coastlines and rock formations in the sea. For researcher Kanchana, it's important to get everyone involved in finding solutions to the problem.
We cannot avoid that. The thing that I concern that how to mitigate the problem, and the people will be adapt.
While it may not be possible to completely contain the force of nature, the worst could be avoided if all parties work together to deal with the challenges posed by the elements. The effect of nature on Thailand's coastal landscape has made for dramatic scenery, attracting not just tourists, but also movie makers as we've seen. More on that when CNA Correspondent returns. The Beach, James Bond, Rambo 2, Good Morning Vietnam. Just some of the popular Hollywood movies that were shot either fully or partly in Thailand, putting the country on the map for both filmmakers and moviegoers. As we've seen, long after The Beach and The Man with the Golden Gun were released, the locations of Maya Bay and James Bond Island continue to attract visitors. In 2020, there were some 170 foreign film shoots in Thailand, with just under half of them movies. But it's not only the big screen productions coming here. Foreign TV programs, from fiction to reality shows, they've come to the Land of Smiles as well. I got in touch with Somchai Santi Tarangkun, the location manager for the film The Beach. Released in 2000, it brought the beauty of Maya Bay to a worldwide audience. Mr. Somchai has been in the movie business since the late 1980s. He's worked on dozens of Hollywood blockbusters. He spoke to me from Phuket, where he's scouting locations for an upcoming movie. I asked him how he found Maya Bay for The Beach back then.
So we was on scouting location for 2 to 3 weeks, going everywhere, every island. Because in the script, the hidden beach is kind of surrounded, you cannot see. And reality is only one place in Thailand that have something like that. It's in Trang, but it's too small. So we go everywhere until we find the Maya Bay. Nobody know that yet, that how beautiful the Maya Bay. So that's it. When we found Maya Bay, we think, well, this is the one.
The movie crew spent 4 months filming at Maya Bay. During that time, changes were made to the landscape of the area, which led to criticism and made headlines in local media. Sutep Chai Kao was a park ranger at Maya Bay back then. He recalls the controversy.
แก้เป็นต้นไม้บางต้นนะฮะที่ก็เอามาซ่อมแซมคือเหมือนพวกต้นมะพร้าวนะฮะที่ก็เอามาตกแต่งปรับภูมิทัศน์นะฮะถึงทีนี้ทางผู้ประท้วงบอกว่าก็ต้องการเอามาหยานะฮะที่ว่ามีสภาพเดิมกลับมานะฮะ
More than 65 palm trees were planted for the movie. Environmentalists denounced the alteration as destroying the island, which is part of a national park. A few lawsuits have been filed over the years against those responsible for shooting the movie and those who gave permissions, though the cases have not resulted in any consequences. Mr. Somchai says that Maya Bay was in a far worse shape before the movie.
Before that, when we first found that beach, on top of the beach where we were planting the coconut palm, it was a dump where the long-tail boat taking tourists there and just litter. We hired 20 local people for 2 weeks to clean up all those trash out to make it all pristine. But after they go back, it's a picture of JCB saying that we damaged the beach.
However, since then, Thai authorities have become more careful about letting movie productions film in natural environments. A local council in Krabi province recently rejected a request by a foreign filmmaker to shoot a movie in a national park, citing environmental concerns. The production has been moved to Phuket instead. Still, the Thai government hopes to draw in more foreign productions, not only from Hollywood, but also other markets. Officials are discussing whether to increase incentives for foreign productions. An expense rebate of up to 30% is being considered. Carl van Duhole is a freelance cameraman and journalist based in Krabi province. He's worked on a variety of international movie and TV productions in Thailand. Having seen what it's like on set, he shared why the country is a popular choice, apart from locations.
Thailand has very good crews. I've been working a lot with Thai crews, especially in lighting, grip, set decoration, scouting, and so on. They are really, really world class, no doubt about that. I know that many productions I've been working for, they have tried to engage as many Thai crew as possible, because of course it's also cost saving. The wages are definitely lower than in Europe, and they save the travel cost and so on and so on. So it's always a financial aspect as well.
As for Mr. Somchai, he still scouts locations for foreign movies to this day. He says that discovering Thailand's hidden gems is what keeps him going.
I get to see new places, seeing the place that normally people never see in a different subject, that because it's the different movie is a different need for thing, Sometimes I go into the cave by myself. Sometimes I climb up the mountain. Like every day I wake up, I be someplace new, to try to find something that thinking that it could work for the movie. So it's exciting.
With Thailand opening up to the world again following the pandemic lockdowns, visitors will be able to revisit their favorite spots or make new discoveries. Officials and local communities are working to protect the landscape so that Thailand's natural beauty can be captured for years to come, whether on a live stream or the silver screen.